When it comes to bullying, one of the most heartbreaking statistics is that 41% of victims believe they will be bullied again. What can we do to break the cycle? How should parents, teachers, counselors, and administrators respond? And what can families do when they feel their concerns aren't being addressed? This is what I want to know. And today, I'm joined by Conway and Dorthy Brooks to find out. Conway Brooks and his daughter Dorthy have experienced bullying firsthand. And when teachers, administrators, and even the local school board wouldn't help, they took matters into their own hands. The Brooks found a solution outside the traditional public school system. And today, Dorthy isn't just thriving academically and socially, she's stepping up to help other victims of bullying turn the corner as well. They're with us today to share their story, help us understand where we're falling short, and inspire us to do better. Conway and Dorthy Brooks, thank you for joining What I Want to Know, and I'm real excited to have you both on to talk about a challenging issue, and that of bullying. But first, Dorthy, how old are you, Dorthy, by the way?
I am 12 years old. I'm turning 13 this year.
Well, congratulations. I wanted to ask you about your passion, because when I was reading up on you, country, western, ballroom dancing, you are a 3-time world champion.
9-time.
Nine times. 9 times. What's it like for you, Conway, as a parent? You have to go to a lot of shows and travel, and how is that?
We do a lot of travel. Her pros right now are based out of Atlanta, so we drive back and forth about once every other week to every week, and competitions are about 6 a year. We just got back from Chicago and Nashville, two competitions in the last month, and being part of Alva and Stride, we were actually, Dorthy was doing her classes, had her headset on in the backseat of the car, because we just turned on Wi-Fi with our phone and let her do the classes all day while we were driving to Chicago.
Well, I tell you, Dorthy, I admire you, and I'm going to look at all your YouTube. I want to see the beginning. I want to see the growth. I want to see the moves, and so I'm going to check all of that out. But let's go to this tough subject of bullying. First of all, it takes a lot of courage to talk about this, but I hope you know that by sharing your story, you actually are helping a lot of kids that otherwise would suffer in silence. So when did you first feel you were being bullied?
It was around kindergarten and first grade where it started. I would start being blamed for things that I had nothing to do with. And I would tell the teacher I wasn't doing any of these things. Like, she never believed me. She always believed all the other children.
And do you know the reason why you were bullied?
I think race and me being different from most of the people in my classes is something to do with it.
Did you also find that you were being treated differently than the other kids? Like, would they have parties and not invite you, or would you they not want to hang around or play with you? Did other things flow from that?
I just remember being blamed. And then every once in a while, if I would ask if they would want to interact with me, like if we were doing recess or something, I would just get excluded. But that was every once in a while.
Can you describe how it all made you feel?
It made me feel very sad and frustrated most of the time because I couldn't figure out why it was happening.
Conway, from your end, you could tell that there was a personality change.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely see it in her. It would take her a little bit of time after getting home from school to kind of reset into her normal self. And actually, that's where dance kind of came into a helpful outlet for her. It gave her a way to smile again, go do something she felt was fun with other people, and do the ballroom dance. Just allowed her to flow, allow her to move and work out some of that anxiety and loosen back up to, by the end of the day, become our Dorthy again.
Dorthy said that she found the teachers weren't responsive. I am assuming you had conversations with teachers, administrators. So
all the way up to the board.
So walk me through that. I mean, who did you first talk with, and then how did that go, and then where'd you go next? I think parents want to know that.
Well, initially we went to the teacher, and one of them was the librarian from the before school, after drop off, before the first bell, and they might have to wait a little bit, she was assigned to be in the library. And we'd try and talk to the teacher or some of the other administrators. The vice principal was one we went to multiple times, and got no satisfaction is one word, but got no belief from them that it was even happening. But that doesn't happen in our school. We do the anti-bullying campaign. I'm like, well, you may do the campaign, but you're not living what you preach, because your teachers are over here part of it. And her older sister, we'd had similar problems in the high school with her older sister by one of the teachers actually knocking books off her desk every couple of days. And so when I went to the school board, some people I knew were there. My mom had taught for over 30 years in this system. She tried going in, she couldn't get satisfaction. She was furious. And this was people she had worked with at the same grade levels in one of the other schools in the system. And it's going to be very frustrating as a parent, because you sometimes go to this and you will not get that satisfaction. You will not get even the acknowledgement that it's happening, because if they acknowledge it's happening, then they admit they have a problem. And a lot of these administrators don't want to.
There's a phenomenon that a lot of parents complain about. And by the way, it's not in every school district. It's not in every school.
Correct.
But this idea of closing ranks, where folks sort of, to your point, they say there's not a problem when a parent or a child knows there's a problem. How did that leave you? What did you feel you needed to do in order to address a problem that people were telling you didn't exist?
We had looked at several homeschool programs, and I didn't like that there was no structure to them, and neither did my wife. So we were looking around, and we found Alabama Virtual Academy, which is the Alabama School for Stride. And we liked the fact that you had the full structured program. You had that they had to follow certain state criteria and curriculum, but it didn't have to be in the brick and mortar. And what we had learned with Dorothy is that she acted more mature. She was able to do more without having to just sit there bored all day. And so we were able to do the work with her and not have her waste as much time. But as we were finding that was something we really needed, was some way for her to fit her. Yeah. And to find that solution, which is something that allowed structure, but did not allow for the time for people to be bored and have to do things like bullying or form cliques or whatever by just having all that free time some brick and mortar schools have.
So the solution that you ended up implementing was removing her from that school system.
Completely. And my mother was furious. Like I said, she had taught that system for over 30 years.
So Dorothy, let me ask you this. Did you find that changing schools and getting into the virtual program, getting away from the brick and mortar, that it benefited you?
Yes, I think it did a lot. First of all, the teachers, they were able to help me with things if I had problems. My grades have gone up substantially, and it's a lot easier for me to do things on my own time if need be.
I'm assuming, Conway, that part of it is her schedule just with the, country western ballroom dancing. It sounds like that she's got a schedule like a professional athlete.
But she still makes time to get to do the Skype calls, on the phone with friends from class. I mean,
Skype?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm older. Whatever, video calls with her friends from, classes. Go play in the neighborhood. She'll do her dance lessons at home, her at-home drills and everything in the ballroom, so that she can go play after her friends from brick and mortar get out. I mean, it doesn't slow her down at all.
Your solution worked. You were able to get her in another school. But Conway, there are a lot of parents out there that, through no fault of their own and because circumstances they can't control, right, they cannot remove their child from a toxic bullying environment. So if a child has to stay and a parent has limited options, what kind of advice would you give them in terms of how they can make a situation tolerable? What do they need to do?
Kids may not, you may not understand, because joking about age and stuff, we don't know quite all the same ways that they bully each other, whether it's online, in person, or any of that. Dorothy has very limited access to some things, time and everything else. But if you're the parent, you've got to get involved. You've got to be there. You've got to be willing to put your foot in the door and go talk to the teachers. Stand up for your child, because that is your job.
One thing that the experts talk about who have looked at bullying over the years, in particular bullying in this age of social media, which is a whole different level, they talk about the importance of training, and training not just for teachers, but for counselors, staff, everyone. Do you know whether or not in the previous school there was training around bullying? I know that you said they had anti-bullying, but and how important do you think that would be in terms of helping?
Everyone that I've been involved with, the high school from our older daughter and Dorothy's elementary school, yes, they have the anti-bullying campaigns. All the teachers rally behind saying, we took the online class, or we sat there for 2 hours afterwards. Yay, we're fixed. The difference is, I think a lot of times they don't go forward with the actual implementation of everything. Just because you attended a class doesn't mean, or a lesson or an online seminar, doesn't mean you're actually following the principles of what you're supposed to be. And that's the hard part, I think, for a lot of parents is they've had this training, they've had these certifications, experts come in and tell them do it. Well, that's all great if they're not going to implement the very programs. You can put up a poster on the wall or out in front of the school all day long, anti-bullying week, but unless they're going to focus on it, not during that week, in the next week, in the next month, in the next calendar year, it doesn't mean anything if they're not going to do it.
Let's say you're in Birmingham, Alabama. Let's say you had an audience with all of the superintendents in the state of Alabama. What advice would you give them in terms of how to stop bullying in Alabama schools?
I know with Dorothy's case, the quote investigation into the bullying was done by one of the vice principals, and we never even got a full accountability of what happened, what the teacher's side of it was, or any of that. We couldn't get any answers. I mean, all right, if there's been an investigation, if there's been inquiries, why, I don't need to know what happened with another child, but with my own child, I at least should be able to find out what the investigation showed.
So, Dorothy, what advice would you give to kids across the country who happen to be bullied themselves?
Probably talk to your parents about it, because if anyone's going to do something about it, it's going to be your parents. And just trust that they're going to do something.
So, Conway, this is what I really want to know. Has the experience that Dorothy has gone through given her a greater sense of self?
Through dance and through this experience, she has changed. But she's still the kid that wants to go running up and hug you and smile. And when you see this smile on the dance floor, just in person, people melt. I mean, she's got more, we call it a dance family. We joke she's got more extra grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, and uncles that want to make sure she's taken care of at events. They'll go buy her, coffee or something behind my back, give her treats and stuff. But she'll get on the dance floor. She's willing at 10, 12, about to be 13. She'll walk up to world pros and masters and say, hey, can we dance? And next thing you know, they're dancing on the dance floor during one of the breaks of the competitions. She has this confidence by finding something that suits her. She's developed a confidence that glows, and it shows. And a lot of people even talk about that she's transformed into something bigger now and more mature because we've given her those opportunities that we like to think and let her move at her own pace on it.
Good for her. Dorothy, we're very proud of you. I'm so glad you're enjoying school and your dancing competitions. and we really wish you the best. Conway, thank you also for your support of your daughter and for speaking to America about this issue. We appreciate you both joining the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining What I Want to Know. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. And don't forget to write a review, too. Explore other episodes and dive into our discussions on the future of education. I also encourage you to join the conversation and let me know what you want to know using hashtag WIWTK on social media. That's hashtag WIWTK on social media. For more information on Stride, visit stridelearning.com. I'm your host, Kevin P. Chavis. Thank you for joining What I Want to Know.